Okay, do it up. I'm going
All right,
live as well.
here I am. I'm live. Hi, guys. Here I am. It's Yankee News. Good old Court here with Jason and his sidekick in our fabulous adventure called
Yankee T News and Common Sense News and Entertainment, the newly established
yes, right.
incorporated news network. And we're going live on Facebook now, too. Here we go. Loading it up. Loading. Go live.
All right.
3, 2, 1.
Well, I
And
went off on another.
welcome to Facebook Live here with Jason from Common Sense News and Entertainment and a joint venture with Yankee 2 News here with Court Rotnowski once again, Saturday, March 28th, 2026. And we got a lot to talk about tonight. I confess, Court, I did not do all my homework that you assigned to me, but I did do some.
Well, we'll see how you
did
do.
review, and I even printed out this SUNY population thing. Before we get to that, there's something missing from this.
Population, by the way.
Yes, there's something very much missing from this chart, and maybe you can figure out what it is. We'll talk about it later. But before we get into the Iran thing, let's talk about. Let's do this common sense news, entertainment, sports.
Sports, okay.
Yeah. Real quick was opening basketball, UConn.
Yeah, we both watched that last night, and I have to admit, I may not be that much of a basketball fan, but I was on the edge of my seat. Oh my goodness. UConn was just holding on to that lead. Michigan State would come in. Then they had a couple of times, so they just briefly had the lead. And then Connecticut came back, just brilliant. Play. That Mullins guy with his three-pointers. Oh, my goodness, yes.
Yeah, they used to call him Mr. Basketball in Indiana, where he's from.
Yeah. Well, one of the odd things I thought, though, was one of the fouls right towards the end of the game when it counted the most was this guy. Was it Cabavan?
Caravan, yeah.
He has one of the highest foul shooting percentages on the team.
Yeah.
If you had to foul somebody,
wrong guy.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. Okay. They're aware of that on both sides, so who do you give the ball to, right?
Yeah, that worked out. Yeah.
But interesting story about UConn. They're playing that win brought them to the final Elite Eight of the tournament. So there's 8 teams left.
How many times have they gotten to the Elite Eight?
Last time they got into the Elite Eight?
Yeah, okay.
Well, they won 2 championships in a row in 23 and in 24. So I mean it's in 22 and 23. So
okay.
So their success has been awesome. But back in that, just a quick brief history, the UConn Huskies men's basketball team was abysmal back when I was a little kid. They weren't even on the map. They were in the Big East, like they are now, but they were in last place every year. They were terrible. They lived in Boston College, were the worst. And all of a sudden, in 1986, they hired Jim Calhoun, and he brought the team slowly up the ladder. And all of a sudden, 1990,
all of a sudden.
Yeah, pretty much all of a sudden, yeah. They won the NIT in '88, which is a lesser tournament.
No, this would have been the university's board of directors who love sports sitting around getting pissed off and tired of losing, and they said, "We're going to commit to making this a top flight team." All right,
and that's when they hired Jim Calhoun,
right?
Who did that? Just that. So in 1990, what we lifelong Connecticut residents refer to as the dream season. UConn did very quickly, in a matter of which was all of the sudden go from pretty much mediocre. They were on the rise, but that year they went to the NCAA final, the Elite Eight, where they are today.
Yeah, who was the guy who made that dream shot you were telling me about?
Tate George.
What was it?
And it was Tate George.
Tate George. Okay.
Tate George. Yeah. Now in that game, which was the same level game you saw last night, we saw with Michigan State. It was the Sweet 16 game. They were down by a couple of points, I believe. I think it was 2 points, 1 or 2 points, with 0.3 of a second on the clock.
Wait, which game are we talking about?
This is the Sweet 16 game back in 1990.
Oh, okay. All right, there.
Going back ways. This was what we call the dream season, where UConn became what they are today, overnight, virtually. Although you're right, there was a building period. But from the perception of a casual fan, however, UConn was really that happened. That's why it's the dream season. It was a dream come true. We suddenly started beating teams like Syracuse and Georgetown, out of the blue. And we went to the final 8. We lost though in the Elite 8 game that Sunday or Saturday that weekend to Duke. Guess who we're playing for that same trip to the Final Four this Sunday? Duke again. Duke is our hated rival. So if you're a Red Sox fan, and you think New York Yankees are who you hate. If you're a UConn fan, you think Duke.
Okay.
So Duke and UConn have quite the history. We lost to Duke that year in the Dream season after Tate George, again, with 0.3 of a second. Let me get back to that. Against Clemson. This time it was Michigan State. Back then it was Clemson, 1990. And Scotty Burrell threw a baseball or football pass, really, the length of the court. Tate George somehow caught it and was able to turn around and get it out of his hands within 0.3 of a second, which most experts believe is the absolute maximum amount of time or minimum amount of time you need to get a shot off.
That's the same speed as the blink of an eye.
Pretty much the blink of an eye, right through the hoop, wins the game. That day made, let me tell you something from my standpoint, that day made 2 enemies into 2 friends.
Oh, yes.
Yes, for me. When I was in school, I was just out of school, actually. But in high school, there was a kid, I won't say his name, but he is my namesake, though. His first name was Jason, like me. And I don't think he liked me because of that for some reason. He used to pick on me, try to bully me for some reason. And we had a problem with each other. We had one shoving match one time, and he would try to embarrass me, and it was pretty much a pain in my ass, the kid.
Bigger than you?
He's about my size, I guess.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't like fighting, so I mean, I would have fought if I had to. We did have a couple shoving matches, or whatever, but it was pretty much a problem. And then one day, we got out of high school. About a year went by, so I didn't see him for a year or so. And one day, I showed up at my friend's house to watch this game with Tate George, the Dream season game. And guess who was in the room? This kid, Jason, another mutual friend of ours. And the room got very tense for me suddenly. And, we were adults now. We were out of school, so he didn't, try to shove me or bully me or anything. But it was I felt I wanted to give him what he put me through,
Yeah.
But anyway, we're obviously all UConn fans. And long story short, Tate George's shot put the 4 of us in one of those, game-winning huddles at the woo. And obviously the celebration of that shot brought me and that kid together, and we were high-fiving, and we ended up bullshitting that day. And then we played golf together in a group about a year later. And now he's, I don't know him anymore, but I see him around, and we're friends.
I have a similar story. It's not quite on the same level. I'll run it backwards. So there I was with my sailboat down at the point several years ago, and the ball mechanism had rusted, so I was having trouble getting it to work. And the dockmaster got this guy who was working with him to come over, and he helped free it up, and now it was working. I say, thank you very much. And by the way, what's your name? His name was Wayne Scott. And then I said, my name is Kurt Rutnowski, and we both laughed in the most embarrassed way because in the 8th grade, we got into a huge brawl with each other.
Oh, wow.
Right.
You see each other when you're older and kind of past all that, and it's suddenly funny. That's cool.
Yes, time is just, it was
time heals things. It does, most of the time, at least.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, but anyway, anyway, just real quick to wrap that up, the rivalry between Duke and UConn is very intense, and it's going to be renewed tomorrow night, so you don't want to miss it. And like you said, even if you're not a huge basketball fan, it'll be an exciting game, because I was not a basketball fan as a younger boy. I thought they scored too much. I used to think when I was a little kid, they scored too many baskets. The run in baseball is so sacred. What is this scoring here back and forth? I thought it was ridiculous. And then I had a friend, a childhood friend, teenager. He just told me to get into it, and I was watching the tournament games, and I got into it. I got hooked, so I've been a basketball fan ever since.
There you go.
But tonight, the Sunday's worth watching. There was a game once back then where I think it was one of the same games, UConn Duke game, where Rod Sellers dribbled Christian Leitner's head into the court like a basketball, except it was his head, not the basketball. So they hate each other. It's ugly. So, buckle up and check it out.
All right. So, in the meantime,
more serious topics.
I'll tell you that Iran is turning into a many-faceted thing, and not in a good way. The
pessimism comes out again. Let's listen.
Well, I don't know about pessimism. The heart of this, if I may, is the fact that you still don't see an uprising showing up. I think I would still say give them time. Some things have to change.
I would agree.
But I mean, you even have Steve Bannon kind of going, well, what the heck is going on here? We feel like Mossad has lied to us about just how ready the Iranian people were ready to rise up. And,
What about okay.
Well,
But what about this? If you want to seize control of a country as people, you probably need to seize control of a lot of the same facilities that we are targeting. So therefore, maybe it's just not time yet.
no, I wouldn't. No, right now we're destroying military assets,
Mm-hmm.
which is not the same thing as seizing control of the TV station, the radio station,
Yeah.
any other means of public communication.
Power grid.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so you haven't, those things remain, I'm going to say untouched, for lack of a better term. So, yeah. So what's the other thing I want to attack here? Here, let me put up the ethnic map because I think it's really interesting.
Yes. Did you notice what's missing? We'll let the listeners check it out. Our viewers check it out.
Isn't this, come on, guys, why isn't this coming
Man,
up?
unless I'm missing something here. Let me see.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, okay. In millions.
All right, so this is different. All right, this is different. This is the ethnic map. If you look up, you'll see that it's different.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, that's just what I ran. This is a world thing. All right, yeah. This one I only glanced at. But okay.
Okay.
Persian.
All
Oh, that's
right.
a large Persian.
Well, yes.
Persians dominate.
Yeah, well, we know this. Like it says, 48%. I think people are fairly comfortable with that, a number like that. As far, and notice the population. Can you see the cursor?
Move it around a little bit.
I am moving it. And you still don't see it? No?
Nope. I
Oh,
don't
that's
see it at
not-
all.
All right.
So-
Well, I have to find
Do
it.
it where you put it. Move it around in the white portion of the open page at the bottom of the map where there's nothing there, the white part of it.
All right. Now I'm moving it around. You still don't see
I
it?
don't. I see nothing.
All right.
That must be just that I'm not seeing it at all.
All right. So it's not
Well,
this.
eventually, I'm going to get a subscription to this thing as well, and that could change things.
You might be right about that. Okay.
All right.
So yes, that's the dominant population. But then this other population, Mozani, I don't know how to do this here. All right, you see this U-shaped section at the top here?
I do.
All right, and then you see the pinkish area.
Yeah, that's the Mazani area.
That's what they link as the next.
Looks like, isn't that where the Black Sea is right there? Or Caspian Sea? That's the Caspian Sea there.
Caspian Sea. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So they're sea coasters.
Well,
Well, yeah, they're all right there.
Iran has, they front on water in a lot of places. Anyway, the thing I really want to draw your attention to, though, is if you go down the ethnic list, you got Persian, Mazani, Arab, and the next one is Balak.
I see it.
Balak. Look
Down
at
the southeast, they have the southeast.
Yes. Okay. So what's the border there?
Afghanistan.
No, that's up here. Where
Pakistan. I'm sorry, Pakistan.
Pakistan. Well, guess what's been happening lately? It turns out that Pakistan has been firing some missiles into Iran because Iran has been firing some missiles into Saudi Arabia. And what two countries have a mutual defense pact?
Pakistan and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
On both sides of Iran. Interesting.
Does this smell like World War I or what? Because that's how World War I happened. You had countries with mutual defense pacts being attacked. So country A would get attacked. Country B was part of the treaty, would then turn around and attack the attacker because they attacked country A. And it just spun out of control from there. Okay.
It is a step in the direction of a world war, I admit, but I wouldn't call. I'm predicting that it could happen for sure.
Okay.
But until either China or Russia get involved directly, then it's not a world war, really.
You're talking about military involvement.
Correct.
I don't
That's
know.
what a war is.
Well, you can hold on to that idea, but all right,
I mean, there are such things as velvet wars, which is a velvet war is what they waged against Trump here in America.
Yeah.
Which they still wage against Trump here in America. But if you want to talk about regular war, yeah, we're talking about military here. Yeah.
All right. So meantime, though, Balakistan is a huge problem, bigger than it seems, and there's more to this story that just makes it even uglier.
What? Oh, Blockistan. Okay, I know what you're saying.
Balochistan. Yeah.
That's what you named it that.
All right.
Okay.
You already have at least 2 militias in there who are trying to create their own country. So, in effect, they're fighting both Pakistan and Iran. All right.
Okay.
There's one, and here's what's weird. It's the Pakistani Taliban on behalf of Afghanistan.
They're the ones that they're the ones that are what firing the missiles?
Yeah. No. Pakistan, the government of Pakistan, firing missiles all the way over to Saudi Arabia. Meantime, though, you have these local militia battles in Balochistan that have been going on for quite some time. Mossad has been involved, and by the way,
When you say quite some time, do you mean since the beginning of the war, or before the war?
Oh, well before.
Okay.
I think we're talking at least the year 2000, if not earlier.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. And in 2007, there's a story where Mossad had been working with the Balakis because, hey, look, everybody's trying to subvert everybody else. What's new? So what else?
That's called the dog eat dog world. We know about that.
Okay. So the Mossad was trying to, give more support to the Balakis. However, it turns out that the Mossad pretended to be Americans to create a false flag using our name. This was quite annoying.
Like a Liberia, like a sick Liberia.
Sorry. So there's
does it serve the United States' best interest to help Blockistan become its own country, and thus truncate some of Iran? And is it not a good thing if, even though
I think
it does smack of an escalation of the war, isn't it a good thing for Pakistan to be, perhaps helping out by, participating in the attack on Iran? I mean,
well, I couldn't put it here, but there's something called the Durand Line, Durand Line, the Durand Line.
Durand Line, okay.
This is another example of how the British have really screwed things up. Okay. So they intentionally put together people who can't stand each other. When they drew this Durand Line, if you look at the brown area there, you see there's that, if I can just see my cursor, but there's that squiggly little white line there. Okay.
Oh yeah, I see it. Is that a river or no?
Well, no, it's I think it's like a property line. If you were to follow that, I mean, it's slightly different. It follows the map, but then it doesn't. So this Durand Line was meant to, create different countries, and that Durand Line has caused people to contest whether or not they're a part of one country or another country, one area of governance or another area of governance. And so the Balakis, all right, do not really feel like they belong with Pakistan. Okay. But they still have problems with the Persians. So this is a little bit like the Kurds. Now, mind you, the Kurds, where are the Kurds? The Kurds are
probably up in the north, right?
Okay, that big red blotch is the Kurds, and there's another big red blotch there. Okay. So, and now what they don't show you is that this big red area also.
That bigger red area adjacent to the northern Iraq right there?
No,
right?
This is still Iran.
No, I know, but on the bigger block on the northwest corner, is that adjacent to or border with northern Iraq?
No,
I know Iran borders Iraq somewhere. Isn't it around there somewhere?
Iraq is to the left in this.
That's
picture.
What I'm talking about. The dark red blotch where the Kurds are.
Yeah, well, there are two dark red blotches.
But the biggest one.
Yes. All right, and so yes.
So does that border Iraq right there? Is what I'm asking you.
Yes, it does, and so then you have Iraqi Kurds and Iranian Kurds.
There you go.
But I don't think they see the difference. But supposedly some of the Iraqi Kurds have been coming into Iran in anticipation. All right, so are you beginning to get the flavor of this here?
Yeah, like break it up like the Soviet Union, like happened in 1990 with the Soviet Union. Because they're breaking it up. We got a little.
Yeah.
You're staying here. We got a little. Maybe we could give them a Kurdistan. Wouldn't they like that up here?
So there's even more. Okay, so I want to get to this other part because this. Let me just say, thank you, Joe Biden, as I will explain. Now, if you look into this upper brown, light brown, dark brown region here, now back in the Blockistan area here.
Yeah.
Pakistan.
Oh,
All
the
right,
upper part of that. Okay.
upper part. Now you're getting into Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the part of Iran that borders with Afghanistan.
Well,
And now you have a militia. I think they're called the TPT or something. I have to check the name.
mm-hmm.
Different from the Balochistan militia. This is totally separate militia, Taliban affiliated. And there's a whole backstory about Taliban. Oh my God. Okay.
They're thugs too, those guys.
All right. Afghanistan. Is there anything about Afghanistan that might ring a bell?
Yeah, 9/11 plotting or supposedly plotting.
I'm thinking more like 2021.
Oh, the massive embarrassment, you mean, from Biden?
So and what did we do? We left behind a lot of military equipment.
That they're now using against us.
Eventually, but right now they figured out how to use some of that equipment, and they are working. This TPT group is working the ground right up in this upper area here. Okay, and they're going to find their way into Iran eventually, if they haven't already, with American equipment. With American equipment.
So, what do we know about where is the Strait of Hormuz in relation to this? Right, I can't point to it, unfortunately.
Yeah, sure.
I can actually use my cursor for Facebook users to see it, but
so if you look careful, you can kind of pick up this where it's. Let's see here. Follow the. All right. Look at the light brown. Okay.
Yeah.
See that little yellow.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the beginning of the Strait of Hormuz, and if you keep following the coastline as it becomes green, it curves around, and then
I see it.
Yellow again. So that's the Strait of Hormuz in there.
So it's Persian and whatever that's got to be
Talyish. I have no idea.
Talyish
are.
And then Arab apparently too.
Yeah, sure.
Talyish and is that Kashaki as well?
Yeah, I guess. Well, that's further up.
Colors, man. I'm really testing my cones and rods here with
this. Yes.
That looks like the Kashaki there.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
I think we should know who those people are because that's an important area.
Yeah. Okay. So then this thing here, that's the Lure, another group I've never heard of. You know, the Lure.
Yeah, the Lure. I've heard of some of these, but not all of these.
Okay, and mind you, all these groups scattered around in what are mountainous regions. What did we find out last night? What was it? 40%? I forget. 60% of Iran is mountainous.
Yeah, mostly the northern part of it, I believe, too.
Oh, but when you look at the map, this lower green section, then the lavender, and then with the whatever that is, tan, orange, that whole area there, that's very mountainous there. So, and you keep going north, that's also mountainous. So, yeah. Okay. So, all of this said, I want to try and bring your attention somehow. Okay, this is the best way I can do it. So, here we see the name Persian, right? Let's go across and come up to where that little yellow thing meets the green, kind of, in that little area there.
Yellow.
There's a report of a town there where, here you go, militia that support the Islamic government are forming a caravan and they're driving south.
Okay.
And the reaction is call out the warthogs. Okay, call out the warthogs. So it's stuff like this that tells me, everything's moving into place slowly but surely for the big match, like it or not. Okay, which leads me to my next comment. Should we go to the other map? Not yet. So I came across. I'm sorry?
The pie chart?
No, not yet. No, but okay, I came across this is the phrase: a force designed not to win, but to survive.
Okay.
Okay, this is just another.
Mullen wants to just survive, right?
Yeah. So the IRGC is positioning themselves to survive.
They can survive as long as they don't survive with any kind of ruling authority over Iran anymore. That's what matters.
Well, we say this, but then they would have the opportunity to create their own, quote,
Insurrection.
regional authorities.
Mhm.
And, you know,
Oh,
so
true.
and so here we go. What were we talking about the other night? That's right, Iranian whack-a-mole. Okay.
That's right. My favorite game.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure you can play it here. So, okay, so this sets it up. So let's go to the
But that is what it is, because every time they fire a missile, they're revealing a location that we have the technology to detect.
right.
And that should help.
All right, so let me find I want to do this one first.
Of course, we know logic doesn't work in government and geopolitics. So
All right, so
What is this? And this one I did not say. Shea populations.
Okay. All right, so the pie chart one that you were looking at,
Yeah.
you know, is kind of consistent with this one, but still
Is
different.
Shiite, wait, is Shiite, Shia? Are those the same?
Sure. So
Okay.
so if you are of the Shia
that's what I thought.
faith, you are a
Right,
Shiite.
Shiite. Okay.
Yeah. Spelling it the greatest. Okay.
Potato, potato.
All right. So let me just start with the biggest problem first.
This one I got to
You look at Iran, and it'll tell you that they are 90 to 95% Shia. Okay. Now,
Okay.
so it gets complicated. But over here, they say 73 million of the 90 some million people in Iran are Shia. There's
Okay.
one problem. 73 is not 90% of 90.
No.
It's a smaller number. All right, so I'm quibbling.
80-something%, right? It's close,
Okay.
but no.
And so then the other problem was I came across another estimate, which I didn't put up here, that says that the Shia population in Iran is not 73 million, it's 61 million.
Well, I don't think can we just be
Frank about this? I don't think there's any census other than one that was provided directly from the mullah that would make sense. That would just isn't more than a guess.
Okay, so let me give you an example. From estimates from Africa, which are down here, the smaller percentages, you have, all right, so here's the problem. You, Jason, you lucky guy, you get a job upgrade. You are now a member in good standing, an analyst in the CIA. And your assignment.
They only wish.
There you go. They only wish. All right. Your job is to go out and count noses and tell us how many Muslims are there in Tanzania?
Or Dearborn, Michigan.
No, right now, just Tanzania.
Okay, Tanzania, yeah.
Tanzania. All right. So, what are your authoritative sources?
In a place like that, I could send my military door to door.
Yeah. For what is that again? See,
For a
3.
census, if anyone wanted a census, whatever census.
Okay. So once the problem is one source says 3 million, another says 1.5 million. All right. So it's interesting.
Yeah, but what were these sources? Are these Western sources, though? I mean,
Right. Well, that's just it. Okay. There are what we'll call official data sources. So that would be the government. Okay. And
you
then
mean our government or their government? Our government.
their government, the Tanzanian government,
Okay.
because you know they supposedly keep track of their own population too.
Right, their own census, right.
Okay.
Which would conceivably, given their authoritarian power, be very accurate if they wanted it to be.
Well,
But
now,
then what are they going to tell us, though?
okay.
See?
Sometimes you're going to find that there are private groups. Let's say it's for investors who are looking at getting involved in some mineral resources in Tanzania, but they really need a good, accurate breakout for the demographics of the country, which is their way of saying we don't trust the government numbers.
Mhm.
Okay, so now you've got another source. And yeah, he's probably going through various towns and the big cities, and he's able to put something together. Well, who are one of the sources that he's going to rely on? The Muslim councils.
Mhm.
Okay, these cities are these are not 100% Muslim countries. So they have Muslim councils. You go in, you ask, and they give you their considered estimate. And then their estimate is at variance with the private estimates, the government estimates. And now you're sitting there as a CIA analyst trying to reconcile all this stuff.
Mhm.
Okay.
So you do what any good scientist would do. You put it all together and come up with a.
Well, you try to use whatever tricks you can to basically reduce the errors, the margin of error. Okay.
Right.
I mean, this is going to sound goofy, but when I was doing market research, let me give you an example. All right. So it's 1989, I think, and I was doing a report on, of all things, ion exchange resins, the market for ion exchange resins, a particular kind of compound, if you will, used for water treatment.
Okay.
Steam plants.
Sounds involved.
It can be. All right. So now I'm supposed to put together a world figure. Well, guess who uses a lot of water and makes a lot of steam? Back then, the Soviet Union did.
Okay.
Okay. So one of the funny things was that the Soviet Union at the time was 80% industrial and 20% agrarian, while China was 10% industrial and 90% agrarian.
Yeah, today it's probably the opposite, right?
I don't know about opposite, but they've certainly, China's grown. Okay, so now the problem then is, I'm saying, okay, I got a certain amount of population. I have to estimate the water usage for each on a per capita basis, try to estimate the number of power plants and then the water usage in each of those power plants. And then I'm going to come up with a number that's going to have a high or a low to it. And it's going to be as good as whatever the quality of those numbers are. So oftentimes I would start by saying, well, I'm going to take the 50% figure, but then there are reasons to disbelieve the 50% figure and come up with another number and just keep playing with it. And I would end up, let's say at 70% of something. So then in other words,
with still a huge margin for error, though, probably.
Believe it or not, with these margins for error, they would be happy with plus or minus 25%.
I got to get off the camera just so I can see this closely. Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
Plus or minus 25%. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's a large number.
All right. So, okay. So there's
compared to most election, domestic elections, which are usually between 2 and 5% margin of error. So.
Yeah. So well, there you've got better quality numbers when you're dealing with these,
just to give people a perspective. 25%
countries, and also when you're getting down to these lower percentages, the amount of error that you can have actually increases when you're dealing with smaller percentages. So it becomes problematic, to put it mildly. All right. So the point is that I believe the Iranian Shia population is smaller than we think it is. All right. Okay. So they point out that there's a large population in India, but they're not even on the chart here. Okay. So then Pakistan next door, and see, here's again different sources. One was saying 42 million, the other was saying 21 million.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Even in populated Asia.
It reflects the fact that we're not a part of these cultures. You're stepping in like some creature from another planet. And you're trying to make sense out of it. And you're trying to come up with what would be a realistic number. And mind you, this is the Shia population. So in other words, you can have Muslim countries that are predominantly Sunni, but you're still going to have some Shia component to it. And what I find interesting is when you look at most of these countries here, they are, how should I say this?
Syria.
There's hardly any that are close to 50%. You're going to be hard pressed to find a country where there's an even split.
Right.
Shia and Sunni. It's going to be predominantly one or predominantly the other. Okay.
The British were well aware of.
Right. So you look at Iraq. So in Iraq, as we know, Shias are predominantly the Muslim of choice in Iraq. Sunnis are about 20%, and the rest are Kurds, as we're told.
So who are the Iraqi mullahs? They are Shia, right?
The Iraqi or Iranian?
The Iranian mullahs, I mean.
Yeah, no, they're Shia. They
right.
are hardcore
all Shia.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that whatever we're doing should concentrate on diminishing that sect.
Well, that sect. Okay, but again, I draw your attention to that 90 to 95% number there.
I know that makes it tough. You know what that tells me though? These are that over the last. I mean, these are numbers are from when 20. What a copyright 2015.
Well, yeah, 2015, but
Oh, these are old
you know,
numbers.
there's not going to be that much difference.
Well, maybe. Is it possible though that I was gonna say if these numbers were new, is it possible that Shia are congregating in Iran over the last 10 years or whatever? Like, I would love to see what these numbers look like today, honestly.
All right. Well, I would be surprised if there was a lot of migration. You have to keep in mind that we would have to take this map and overlay it with the ethnic dispersion map. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, a lot of the Azeris, they're Shia. A lot of the Balakis, they're Shia. A lot of the Kurds, they're Shia. Yes. Okay. But it still ends up being kind of a mishmash. Yeah. And
Well, whatever the ones of, there's a lot of different Muslim sects. I get that, but the ones that are preaching death to America are the ones we got to wipe out, and the rest of them they can go about their business.
Well, so I did make the comment. This is World War III, and it's a holy war, but you still have to keep in mind that a good chunk of the Iranian population is considered secular.
Correct.
And
which is why this may not evolve into a world war necessarily.
Okay, well, let's review. We've had missiles that have flown from Iran to 12 other countries, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now we have the Houthis.
They're trying to make it into a world war.
You have the Houthis stepping it up. Now they're going to block off the Red Sea, maybe, or try. Okay. So far, so good.
Yeah.
You got the action that's building up in Lebanon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're going to have a bunch of militia types showing up with American equipment out of Afghanistan going into Iran.
You've already got Russia and Ukraine fighting.
Yes. Okay. And then, the supply line from Tajikistan into Iran. It's proliferating. Okay. And to your point, if you start to see Russia and China really get involved,
then you have World War III clear cut.
It's okay. So right now, it's a proliferating regional conflict, and it's getting worse, and it's giving every sign of getting out of control. I mean, especially to me, when you've got Pakistan firing missiles at Iran because they fired at Saudi Arabia. Well, more of that is probably going to happen. Oh, you shot at him. Now I'm going to shoot at you.
Well, maybe if really that just puts the interest in winning a decisive victory over Iran as soon as possible into play to prevent this from proliferating further.
As I've said, this is a fantasy, and all right. So here's the thing. Okay, I feel I'm being a little arrogant. I confess. But I feel like a lot of these people, in terms of what's being presented to the public, have finally caught up. What have they caught up to? They've caught up to the fact that the IRGC is in it for the long run. Okay, they're beginning to go like, oh yeah, that might happen. Ooh, yeah, how do we plan for that? So this talk about winding it down in 3 weeks, 4 weeks is pure crap.
All right, what are we looking at? Or you can look at it this way. Because of the modern technology we have and the way things are compared to the way things were in World War II, I'm going to use World War II now.
Mm-hmm.
World War II, let's say this is a world war and it's starting, it's proliferating. Because of that, because of technology and the internet and the way things are, we've fast forwarded to, because of our overwhelming military power that we do have, we're quickly gone through the entire process. And we're right here in the spring of 1945. Right. We have Japan / Iran on the ropes. And the question is now, do like what Harry Truman had, do we go in with the forces and try to invade and this long drawn out war? Or do we use overwhelming power? Like, I'm not suggesting we're using an atomic bomb here, but he made the choice to use overwhelming physical force with using an A-bomb and ended the thing quickly. So maybe not using an A-bomb, but maybe we should put one in that mountain like I talked about, and then use knock out the power grid, do the things they have to do, tell the people of Iran, just bury the place, man. And then end this thing now before more human lives are lost.
Right. It's easy.
We have the power to do that. We're trying to play nice. We're only picking certain targets, only to certain subway franchises around Iran or whatever, and that's it. So it's not this bullshit playing nice military doesn't work. And if we're gonna win a just, decisive war, maybe it's time. And I know we don't want civilian casualties or whatnot, but maybe it's time that a decisive war is won, and then maybe, so look at it that way. Maybe we're fast forwarded here. All of a sudden, we're in the spring of 1945, and we have this country surrounded. What do we do?
Okay, how many soldiers
to invade Iran? That's exactly my point. To invade Iran, we probably need 100,000 or more.
How many were in Vietnam?
How many were in Vietnam? My guess, I'm just taking a guess here. My guess is at the peak of Vietnam, there were between 40 and 50,000 soldiers there.
Oh, not even close.
Way more?
Oh, God. Yeah, we're talking more like 500,000.
Oh, wow. Okay. Never mind that.
Okay. It was a big number.
I stand corrected. Oh, okay.
All right. So
was it 30 or 40,000? There's somehow that number 30 or 40. That was the number of deaths. How many died in Vietnam?
Around 55,000.
Okay, maybe that's where they got the number from, right around 40, 50,000, something like that. Okay.
So let me see. I'm trying to find.
So we would need, Iran is more complex than Vietnam. We'd need 1 million soldiers or 500,000 soldiers to do the same thing there. So it's
not realistic.
Not realistic. But what is realistic is overwhelming air power, overwhelming shock and awe, firepower, and maybe even one A-bomb to knock that mountain down. Underground mountain bomb. We talked about that before. Just to put an end once and for all. This whole notion of what they're doing there. Or you talked about these supply lines that are coming in from Afghanistan. Wipe those out. Just come in and just bomb that whole area. It's war. Let's treat it like a war and win the war.
The peak number. Why does my computer keep doing this? Anyway, the peak number of soldiers in Vietnam between 1968 and April of 69 was 536 to 543,000.
All there at one time,
according to the all-knowing internet. Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy. And Vietnam is a pretty small place compared to Iran.
And mind you, there were 50,000 Australian troops. There was 500 New Zealand troops, 2,000 from Philippines, others from Canada. So, and so we're not getting the same kind of cooperation. Now, if I may, people have tried to compare what we did in Venezuela with the initial attacks in Iran, these swift decapitation.
Yeah, there's no comparison.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to compare another thing, and I'll explain myself. You might be familiar with the word blitzkrieg.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What we have seen are two examples of surgical blitzkriegs. Venezuela on a small scale, Iran on a larger scale, but not large enough.
Mm-hmm.
And what is going to happen now, and this is what happened with Germany. Germany was winning in the early stage of World War II because of the blitzkrieg strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Attack quickly, move forcefully, overwhelm the enemy.
Correct.
All right. But then that gave way to the more conventional form of fighting, of grinding it out. And that's where they began to see all their losses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm suggesting that we might be confronted with a similar situation here. They can tell me all they want about how they're intensifying their bombing. All right. And Marco Rubio can tell me all he wants about how they don't really need boots on the ground to achieve their objective. And how he gets to that, I would love for him to explain. Sure doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, whatever I would love for him to explain that as well, but he probably cannot.
No, and they're going to change their story as we go along. This is the part I don't like. It's part of what a lot of people don't.
I don't think there's a lot of we're underestimating the value of using a smaller number of boots on the ground, special forces, special operations in there to stimulate and help good-hearted Iranian people form their own boots on the ground.
Well, it's not as easy as it seems.
No, of course not. War is never easy.
Okay, I mean, even with a small group, you're going to have internal politics that are going to screw everything up. All right?
Yeah, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and you know that last map was very colorful with all those different groups. But I would bet most of them are a little tired of the mullah, you know.
Yeah,
So I think that, you know, I think in terms of a lasting, solid government in Iran, that may be a challenge. But in terms of banding together to toss out the mullah, you know, I think that could be achieved. I feel like that can be achieved. I hope that's part of our strategy.
yeah. See, I'm not sure what to say to this. So, for example, all right. So I told you last night about these pickup trucks that show women with machine guns or AK-47s riding in the back of them, looking intimidating, warning civilians, etc. Well, in the other times,
I might add.
in the other times when the Iranian people rose up, one of the tools that the Islamic government used to repress them was two guys on a motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
And they would deploy these groups of two guys on a motorcycle. So one's driving and the other would have a gun or some weapon, whatever, and they would just attack the mobs with these guys riding on motorcycles.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know, between you and me, a little forethought, I think this is an approach that could be easily defeated.
Yeah, a little tripwire.
And other things, yeah. So, but that's not what happened. You know, these guys on motorcycles successfully repressed them, but I think there would have been soldiers on the street shooting at them as well.
As well, right? And maybe some of that's, you know, at this point it may be harder for them to put up such a anti-protest regiment. Maybe now, I don't know.
All right.
Not there. I wish I. Well, I think I'm gonna say I wish I was. Maybe a hell of a good story to cover from Common Sense News Entertainment. That's for sure.
All right. The other thing is,
ground in Iran. Whoa.
Yeah, when you look at the different news accounts that we keep getting hit with, there is so much inconsistency about, quote, who's in charge, who are we talking to, who are we negotiating with. There's no clear picture. Now, I don't know if they're doing that on purpose to confuse other people, but it's certainly not helping the American public understand what's going on.
No, but once again, in a situation like this, the American public does not need to understand everything that's going on, nor should they necessarily.
Well, if you want American support, you better make yourself clear. Okay?
I would argue that if you want to win a war, maybe you should not announce everything you're doing.
Warning sign, red flag. Okay? At CPAC, you already had young men walking around saying they're not sure that they trusted Trump. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So they're looking at the information, and they're not satisfied. And this is a guy who was a veteran in Afghanistan who was speaking up. And you can be sure that there are others like him. He's not the only one.
Oh,
okay.
wow.
It's still a small group.
Trump's running a country of 350 million people, and a military probably 2 or 3 million people, and no one's getting. Everybody's not going to be happy. So whatever.
Okay, but I think
trust Donald Trump.
Okay, his complaint, I think, is reasonable, which is lack of transparency, and he doesn't feel like he's being told the straight story. Now, we can complain about people like Thomas Massie and Nancy Mace, all right, because they've already staked out positions in Congress as being opposed to this whole thing.
Yep.
Okay, but they could be setting a standard that I believe might be reasonable about what should be known in order to make a reasonable assessment. Now, their problem could be, that they're not willing to confront the degree of sacrifice and effort that may be involved. So if they're not presented with information that addresses that, they're going to walk out unsatisfied. All right. Now, the question, though, is their level of concern appropriate? Do they understand something that other people need to take a close look at in terms of what all this stuff is going to involve? Because believe me, it's not going to be 10,000 troops. It's not going to be 20,000 troops. It's not going to be 50,000 troops with armor. This is going to turn into a street fight over what? A country a third the size of the United States.
No, not over a country the third the size of the United States. Nope.
That's it.
It's over the future of the free world.
Yeah, no. I'm saying
It is.
size, not.
You can't let a country like that to continue to proxy wars against us, continue to foment the end of America. A country that, by the way, has terrorists all over the inside of our country right now, and have taken over towns like Dearborn, Michigan, and states like Washington.
Mhm.
So let's be serious. This is not about. I'm sorry, I have to disagree with you vehemently on that one. This is not about the fate of a stupid country the size, a third of the size of the United States.
Not
It's
about
about much more than that.
I'm not talking about fate. Okay, I'm still looking at this part from a military point of view.
Sure.
Want to prosecute what is, let's face it, a war in a huge country, and you want this
Maybe the biggest war we've ever had.
probably. Well, then you look at that. It's going to take more than 500,000 troops, and we haven't even been close to that discussion. All right. So, by the way, and I'll just say it again, I'm the one standing out on the edge here saying we're still going to be fighting this after November.
Maybe. I agree that Trump should at some point. Remember during our Civil War, the first 2 years of our Civil War, it was kind of about economics, and the reasoning was about states' rights and everything. And Lincoln stood up halfway through and said, "Look, this is a big deal. This is about ending slavery. This is about what's right and what's wrong." And that's what rallied the North. So you're right. Donald Trump might need to stand up at some point and tell the American people that this is, unfortunately, this is a big struggle, but the outcome is too important for us to back down, basically.
Right. All right. Well, that message is already being passed around. Okay. But it's a general message that's really not connecting to the problems that we see in front of us. And what are the problems we see in front of us? Opening up the Hormuz Strait, having regime change, dealing with all these conflicting elements. All right. Containing the proliferation of this conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Well, anyway. All right. So the other thing I'm worried about is Mossad losing ground, because we're hearing talk now about how maybe Mossad misled us about how ready the Iranians were to fight back. And then I told you the story of the false flag with Balochistan, where Mossad agents were pretending to be Americans.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, is Mossad screwing up? We normally don't think of Mossad this way, but
in the face that we're running low on time, and to look at the big picture again, let's put up that pie chart.
Okay, sure. Hold on.
Because this is a world picture of.
Oh my goodness, hold on. All right. While we've been carrying on here, Booger has been weighing in. Okay. All right. So let's just rattle his stuff off here. Shades of Little Miss Muffet. Yes. That was at 9:43, whatever we were talking about then. The first map looked a little too much like a golf course for my comfort level.
Yeah, a little bit. The golf course. I like it.
The old slogan. Oh, look, I just stepped in some Shiite. Yeah, okay. Yeah, the Culinary Institute of America. That's right. That's that cutout corporation for the CIA. Right, got it. Yeah, shout out to Dearbornistan. One cannot simply make sense of the senseless. You got that right. 90 to 95 bottles of beer on the wall. Oh, wait, not in those countries. Another good one. Let me turn it into a big sheet of glass. Yes, I know. Wouldn't it be nice? Remember, it isn't a war. It's a military operation. And to this day,
it's a war.
We still argue about states' rights versus slavery.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on here.
So I don't have a problem with the president coming forward and talking in generality and saying, look, this is going to be a big sacrifice. Unfortunately, these people it's a holy war. They're going to have to fight hard. It's going to be costly, but it's a just war, and we can't lose.
Yeah. Okay. So let me get you that other map now.
Yeah, let's put up the pie. And remember what we said earlier, that the Shia are the ones that are generally put in their doctrine and their interpretation of the Quran that the Western world must go bye-bye. So let's see how the world is infiltrated by these people.
All right, so get that and got this one. Okay.
There it is. Oh, we can't blow that up, can we?
Yes, we can.
Oh, we can?
There. Okay. So does it look big to you?
Not really, but you have to kind of look closely at it, but you can.
Now, what's missing from that?
You tell me. You
United
said
States.
United States.
Yeah, we're not on that. We're not in the top 20 among Shia population in our country.
No,
Which is
we're
good
not.
news.
Okay. Well, we have to be clear about this. Remember, this is Shia population, not Muslim population.
I know that. And there are other sects that also want to see the Western world go down too, besides Shia.
Right.
Sure.
You know, and it's a fair here, since we're on this. Let me just grab this.
If I got this really close, then I could do my cursor,
Yes.
but then I'd have to hold this thing. I can't
See, right. I'm trying to
create a video anomaly here.
a video anomaly. So that's to understand this. So I'm looking at. So what is the screen layout you have? There should be two small blocks on the left. That's you and me, and then a big block that is a graphic on the right.
That's correct.
And you can read the name.
Wait a minute. Let me try something here.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I just made it full screen.
Okay, there you go. Okay,
That helps a lot.
all right. Yeah,
Another advancement, slowly but surely. Here I comes as entertainment.
that's right.
We advance.
Right.
Slow but steady wins the race, right, Court?
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Okay, keep going. Let's talk.
Right. So
Got a couple minutes left here. What's going on? Iran. Look at the massive. And for those of you who can see the numbers, I'll have to help a little bit with it. I stay still. Iran is so much massively higher in Shia population than any other place.
which is
Iran.
well, yeah, it's
Number one. I mean, India and Pakistan combined barely beat Iran.
Okay.
And then it drops off precipitously after Iran, India of all places, and then Pakistan.
Right.
Now, India is, let's be fair, India has like 1.5 billion people in it, so there's a lot of everything in India.
A lot.
Right.
That would be correct, sir. There's a lot of everything in India.
A lot of everything in India. So.
2 billion, might be the most populous nation in the world now. 5,000 plus year history, making discoveries, ancient discoveries. We had no idea. Yeah. There's a lot there. Okay.
And after Pakistan, it drops off precipitously. Iraq is 24, and then Turkey only 19. And then it really goes down from there.
19 is a pretty big number too.
19 is a pretty big number, yeah.
Okay, for America, are you ready? So the Shia population in the U.S. ranges between, again, because we don't have good counts, we don't know, we're not in these communities. But anyway, I mean, you got a threefold variation in these estimates: 300,000 over 900,000 Shia individuals in the United States. And they represent 10 to 16% of the total American Muslim population.
Okay.
Okay, so let's say 3 million. Well, 3 to 9. Let's go with the high one, 9 million.
900,000. No, you mean 900,000.
Okay, 900,000. But the 900
That'd be about 9 million. That would translate into about 9 million Muslims altogether. About.
Right. Okay. Which, by the way, there was a time when there were more Jews than Muslims in America, but not anymore.
Really?
Not anymore. Nope.
That's scary.
So, yes, it is scary. It is a problem.
That's a scary number. Yeah.
Okay, 2.4%.
Of our population is Muslim?
2.5% of our population is Muslim. And it's amazing how 2.5% can cause so much trouble.
Yeah, that is amazing.
Right. Okay. So
let's have a goal to get that number under 1% by 2030.
Oh, so what are you looking for?
Let's get that number down to 1% or less by 2030. With using deportations and
the number who probably
no more importations, let our own population overtake it.
Okay, so I want to go back to the earlier point I made, which is that the IRGC is their doctrine is not to win, but to survive.
Mm-hmm.
All right, which turns into what exactly? Hide, hit, and run.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is what if we take over Iran, if we install a quote friendly regime, which I guess is part of why they don't like to talk about this stuff. If that were to happen, most likely the IRGC will have not given up. They'll be scattered in the mountainous regions
and become an insurrection.
And we'll be fighting them here and there. You know what this becomes like? remember that there is a form of warfare that the military hates more than anything else.
Guerrilla warfare,
No, urban warfare.
urban warfare.
Okay, it is so dangerous.
Absolutely.
You're trying to clear out a building and you're going from room to room.
Yeah. Anybody who watches The Walking Dead,
Yeah, you
know
don't.
about it.
Yeah. Okay, so
But yeah, that's tough. I mean, so you have to have fortified cities.
so this, well, the okay. There's another phrase to throw in for consideration as we're moving along here. The Iranian color revolution.
Okay.
All right. Well, color revolution is actually kind of a dirty phrase because it's about manipulating the public to get a certain desired election outcome.
Okay.
All right. If you go back,
You're saying that when we set up a friendly government with some type of a free election, supposedly they'll come in and muddle the waters to get themselves elected into office and
yep,
kind of do what they're trying to do here, essentially. Only they'll have the foothold there. That'll be their homeland to do it in. It'll make it more dangerous.
if you do a little homework in color revolutions, you're going to quickly find out that it is a model for shaping public opinion and winning elections in spite of whatever it is the population really wants.
Mm-hmm.
So
We have that problem here too.
yes, so yes, we do. Yes, we do. And gee, I wonder who's good at it. So it's going to be that old phrase, winning hearts and minds.
Mm-hmm.
That was what was used in Vietnam. And how did that turn out? Okay. You see, you're dealing with so many elements that are cultures alien to our own. And then to think that they're going to somehow line up with us.
No, you don't want to be unrealistic about the difficulty. But however, it doesn't. None of this that we've talked about, any of this recently, doesn't mean that it's not a worthwhile fight, though.
No, all right.
Because we can't let them continue to fester. We can't let our enemies fester and grow stronger.
All right. I agree with you 100%. But underneath everything I'm complaining about is this. They, the powers that be, I feel, are not being honest with the public about the true cost. They keep.
And I would agree that the president needs to come forward and talk about that to the public in a general way.
I don't know when. I don't know where. I mean, I can tell you. So I'm not.
That's why I brought up the Civil War. It took about halfway through the Civil War for that to happen. So maybe
look, the cost
will have to happen before November. I'll tell you that right now.
Okay, over 600,000 lives lost. Are we prepared to sacrifice 600,000 lives to win Iran?
I hope not. Lord, I hope not. But whatever's necessary.
You know,
you can't lose this war. This is a war of the world, in my opinion. It is a world war. It's going to be a world war.
Okay.
I think you're right about that.
Okay. Well, the thing is that what gets me is, and yes, I'm going to agree with that too. The issue being that here we are confronted right now without much help from these schlubs, and we don't have to name them, but there are quite a few schlubs who should be helping out or not. It seems to be on our shoulders, and in the meantime, who is not involved right now? I just mentioned this.
Our old allies from the other world wars to start with. Yeah. the EU, you mean?
Yeah, comrade. Yeah, comrade, my ass. Okay. Yeah, that's one. And China. Okay. They get to sit back while we have to fight. All right, come on. They get to sit back while we have to fight like dogs.
Well, things will change as time goes on. I think the Arab countries
will. Okay.
Well, listen, are we ready to wrap it up for tonight?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are, sir. So we will be back. Now, tomorrow, I know you're going to be in Stanford, correct?
Wait, let me just catch a couple more Boogers comments here. The rights first, yeah, okay. They both want us gone, but they also want each other gone.
Yeah, that helps.
That pretty much sums it up. The war between the states. Let's see, what's the last one? At this point, since every country is a multiple treaty organization, do we have any traditional allies? No, we don't. And just, this is another thing, by the way, which we should probably, I've been sort of thrown into this thing, and Alan would probably, Alan, I don't have to tell you, Wilm cannot get over it. but he's not without basis. You have a group of people. Apparently, they are related to a guy named Lyndon LaRouche. Does that name mean anything to you?
Oh.
Yeah, I don't quite understand him, but he'd been around for decades and decades. And when I was going to graduate school at NYU and other been hanging out at Columbia, you'd see these guys around. They have a card table out, some signs, some literature, and basically talk of the Lyndon LaRouche line, which I don't quite grasp. But apparently, one part of it is that he feels the British Empire never went away. Never.
No, he's absolutely right. The Rothschild family has always had a major finance when it comes to economics and finances. He's 100% right.
Okay,
We
well,
could do a whole show about that.
to me, the British Empire.
The Federal Reserve Act was orchestrated by the British Empire. And after they lost the Revolutionary War, they never gave up on keeping some type of a hold on us.
There's something wrong with the whole way this thing is set up, as far as I'm concerned. All right.
But at any rate,
We'll have,
we're going to be off tomorrow. You're going to be in Stanford on Monday.
yes, I will.
So Monday, April 6th, I'm planning on joining you down there.
Okay, good. So
All right? Not this Monday, but a week from Monday.
all right.
And if you can record with me in the afternoon Monday, we'll post it at night, if it's like we talked about. Okay.
If we can swing that, it's gonna. Yeah, Monday's gonna be a crazy day. I can see this.
It is. I could do morning, afternoon, whatever you want.
Well, I would early in the morning would be best,
Okay, I can do that.
and then I have to do the news broadcast. I could probably get that done tomorrow, and then we'll be set up for when you come in. I got to solve this problem. It's just all right. Anyway,
We'll figure it out.
we will figure it out.
So the only thing I'm waiting to do now is for my letter from the IRS, and then once I get that, I'll start the bank account, and then I can spend money, and that's where things are really going to happen. So
Well,
I got some good money waiting for it. So equipment, body cam, 360 cam, you
Yeah.
name it.
okay.
Before I'm going to go out into the trenches, I need a 360 cam. So
Okay, really? Wow. We'll have to talk about that.
we will.
All right.
All
So
right then.
Alan's last comment here is: does Will know about Hitler, or do you know about Hitler being a British agent?
Do you know that the Bush family paid? Prescott Bush and his family helped pay and finance both sides of World War II.
Sure. Although they weren't alone. They were not alone. We know this. Okay. So, but the point is, this idea that Hitler was a British agent, you got to think about that for a minute.
Well, that sounds to me like the Earth is flat, but and we didn't walk on the moon. But I'll have to pick that one apart. I'll give that a little bit of thought.
Okay.
A little.
Right. So, I mean, the teaser was, why did he stop those panzers and allow the soldiers to escape from the Dunkirk beach? 2 weeks they sat there.
Yeah.
So anyway, on that happy note, talk to you tomorrow.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
If you do it on Facebook for Common Sense News and Entertainment, God bless Connecticut.